Hello, Block 3. I've got good news for you. This is your final lesson for No Red Ink, and you are going to be officially done with No Red Ink for the rest of the year. We're going to do commas for clarity today, and then something called active and passive voice. I expect you to pay attention to this slide. I will be going through this slowly, pointing things out, and I think that it'll make good sense for you. You had a lot of success this week earlier with the components of sentence. Let's do the same for commas for clarity and active and passive voice. So first thing we're going to talk about is introductory clauses and phrases, and I think you're going to find this somewhat the same as what we did when we had independent and dependent clauses. So, use a comma to show a pause after a clause or phrase, running at top speed. Can that stand on its own? No, it can't. So you need to have a comma there, okay? Running at top speed, comma, Jean chased down the school bus. During the night, comma, Lindsay dreamed she saw a UFO. Can it stand on its own? No. Because he enjoys music, comma, Sean bought tickets to the orchestra. Now, let's look at this example where you don't need a comma. Jennifer hid her lucky marbles in the bushes. You don't need to go Jennifer hid her lucky marbles in the bushes. You just look at a sentence. Now, let's look at a pattern here. The subject is always after the clause, right? So you look for a subject here. Jean, Lindsay, Sean. Here's the action, the chase, dream, bought. It's always in the middle. That should give you a good clue where the comma is. Here, the subject is in the front with the action verb right there. Next slide. Do not use a comma if no pause is necessary. So, Magnus enjoys running at top speed. We don't need a comma there. The subject's first. Lindsay dreams she saw a UFO during the night. Don't need a comma there. There's a subject. There's a verb. This is just a prepositional phrase. Then finally, Sean bought tickets to the orchestra because he enjoys music. Now, just so we understand, you never put a comma before because. So if you see because, don't worry about a comma before it. Here's one that you need a comma. After a long discussion, comma, the knitting club finally planned the bake sale. Now here we have again the subject, and we have the verb right there. Okay, whoops, too fast. Trevor Locke, pay attention. Burby, be quiet. Okay, we're moving on to commas, separating adjectives. So this is really easy, you guys. We're talking about adjectives such as loud, smooth, lovely. Remember, adjectives describe a noun, which is the voice here. So what they're saying here, do a test. Say, Anna has a smooth and lovely and loud voice. Does it sound natural? It sounds decent, all right. So then you can say Anna has a lovely, comma, loud, comma, smooth voice. Does it sound natural? Yes, it does. So if you place a comma between the adjectives only if the answer to both questions is yes. So have this slide up when you're working on the adjective and comma section. Now this one, David gave me a two purple wool scarves for my birthday. That's a typo right there. That shouldn't be But anyways, if you go, David gave me 2 and purple and wool scarves, it doesn't sound natural. So you know you don't need any commas there. All right? Moving on. Do not use a comma between an adjective and the noun it describes. So you would never say Lauren wore a warm sweater to school yesterday. You wouldn't put a comma right there, a warm, comma, sweater. After a long winter, Jessica finally plants her beautiful garden. So if the adjective is immediately before the noun, 99 times out of 100, you're not going to be placing a comma there. And again, I want to remind you, keep these slides up as you're working on this specific lesson. All right? Right here, when to use commas with multiple adjectives. All right? So, Lou plucked 3 delicious apples from the tree. So, let's try the test. Lou plucked a juicy and sweet apple from the tree. Does that sound natural? Sure. Lou plucked a sweet, juicy apple from the tree. That sounds natural as well. So down here, we would have Lou plucked a juicy, sweet apple from the tree. Now don't get confused here. They're saying here you never would have to place a comma. I think maybe some of you, including yours truly, thought that this part might be going with that part. Actually, this part is going with the bottom part. Okay? So again, just do the tests and read it out loud. And if it makes sense in both of them, then you won't need a comma. If not, like Lou plucked and 3 and delicious and apples, no, it doesn't make any sense. Okay? All right. Tegan and Jarrett quit looking at each other. I'm sick of it. All right. Identifying active voice verbs. Okay, now you guys, this is really simple. Really, really simple. Just pay attention. This is what you have to memorize. Active voice verbs will tell us what the subject is doing. Anytime you see the subject early on and the verb right after it, it's usually going to be the active voice, okay? So, the subject, Danielle, is doing, she made smoothies. My teacher, the subject, will grade, that's the doing, our projects next week. Sydney, the subject, is searching for stink bugs. They're doing something, all right? Now, here's the passive voice. Now, passive voice shows that something is being done to the subject, being done to the subject. So, the subject is the smoothies were made. Okay, it's being done by Daniel in the kitchen. And if you know your to-be verbs, were, will be, okay, are, that kind of thing, those are always going to be passive. Now, think about this. What if we said, Daniel were made the smoothies? It wouldn't work, okay? The smoothies were made by Daniel in the kitchen. We know that that's a passive voice. Our projects will be graded by my teacher after school. The teacher's the one grading. Daniel's the one making. That's why these are passive. The subject is in front of the action verb that is pertaining to the direct object, all right? Identifying passive voice verbs. It's pretty much the same thing. They're just showing you different slides. Yesterday, the couch was cleaned by me. That's a to-be verb, okay? Something is being done. The couch is being cleaned by me. Subject is me. The smoothies were made by Daniel in the kitchen. We already talked about that one. Our projects will be graded. We talked about that one as well. And these active voices, actually, these are all the same as well. But can you see the difference here, all right? This is something being done to the subject. Here's the subject is the one that's doing the action, okay? And then active or passive voice. And again, this is the review of what we're talking about here. A sentence is in the active voice when the subject is doing the action. They're active, okay? A sentence in the passive voice when the subject is having something done to it. So think about it. Active, you're up and doing something. Passive, you're kind of sitting there having it done to you, okay? So let's use an example. If you're active, you might go up and dish up your food that's over on the table to take it back to where you're sitting. If you're passive, you might have your mom or your sister dish it up for you and bring it to you. That would be passive, okay? So, in the kitchen, Daniel made the smoothies. Daniel's the one that did the action. He made the smoothies, okay? Do you remember earlier on when the smoothies were made by Daniel? That would have been passive voice, okay? Now, actually, it's the very next sentence. Okay? In the kitchen, the smoothies were made by Daniel. That means passive voice. Active. Sydney is chasing Maggie. Sydney's the subject. She's chasing Maggie. But if it's passive voice, Maggie is being chased by Sydney. Sydney's still the chaser, but Maggie's having it done to her. All right? Read that. In the examples above, Daniel and Sydney are doing. The smoothies and Maggie are having something done to them. Okay? I hope this is making sense. If not, watch the video again with some headphones. Okay? Finally, identifying sentence in the passive voice. If you look at this, you guys, it's the same exact example, just opposite. Okay? I don't think I need to talk about this. Smoothies are being made by Daniel. Daniel's the one making the smoothies. Daniel made the smoothies. Daniel's the one that's doing the action. Maggie's being chased by Sydney. Sydney's the one doing the chasing. That makes it passive. Sydney's chasing. That's active. Okay? Last one. Create an active voice sentence. This is kind of small, but really, this will be kind of a cool activity for you. Here's an active voice. Joe caught 6 fish. So if they tell you make it passive now, you'd say 6 fish were caught by Joe. Joe's the one that caught the 6 fish. The 6 fish had something done to them. They were caught. All right? Now, look at this. Switch the order of who did and who received the action. The pie was baked by Dave. Dave was baked by the pie. All right? That's kind of a silly sentence. Dave was baked the pie. Does that make sense? No. Okay? Dave baked the pie. Active voice. Okay? So the rest of these really didn't make any sense at all. So you know that that's an active and you know that that's passive. All right? Last one down here. The passive voice, the shoes are owned by Ann. Ann owns the shoes. The shoes were owned by Ann. And again, look at, these are all to-be verbs. Are, were, will be. Those are to-be verbs. Now here's the active voice. Ann's the one who owns the shoes. Ann owned the shoes. Ann will own the shoes. She's the one that's doing the action to the direct object. All right? I hope that this was beneficial. I hope you weren't screwing around. My substitute will tell me if you were. All right? And I want you to do a good job on this. There's about 7 different components to master. The plan is I want to test you on this on Friday, okay? So we'll work on it for a while today, and we'll work on it again tomorrow for a little while. And then plus we've got to finish up Julius Caesar when I get back, okay? So use your skills today to get done, and be ready to get some stuff done with Julius Caesar tomorrow. We'll see you soon.